Well, hopefully you're noticing a pattern as we've moved from working consecutively through 1st and 2nd Corinthians and then working through Jude and in Titus and now the book of Galatians. The Apostle Paul repeatedly faced opposition for his ministry of the gospel. Time and time again, his apostleship, that is, his authority bestowed upon by God, was called into question. This isn't just a New Testament phenomenon. We see it repeatedly in the Old Testament with the prophets who time and time again called the nation of Israel to repentance. And for the most part, they were obstinate. They doubled down on their version of Judaism. And God eventually judged them and sent them into exile. But he had a remnant. And likewise in the churches of Galatia, there were those who wanted to go back under the ceremonial laws of the Old Testament, otherwise known as the Judaizers. But Paul addresses these churches as God's under-shepherd. He brings them back to grace. Grace that had been eclipsed by law. And so this morning, brothers and sisters, I want us to consider together the first few verses. And the overall message this morning is simple. We have been delivered by grace. The church is delivered by grace. You live by grace, and the church lives by grace. But that does not mean that those who contradict this gospel of grace are not to be called out. There is grace for those who have the gift of faith. For those that deny justification by faith alone, they remain under the law. They are to be put out of the church. False teachers and false apostles are to be called out for their destruction of the church, their danger to the church. And we see that repeatedly throughout this letter, throughout this epistle. Paul even gets to a point in chapter 2 where he opposes Peter, who was an apostle, because Peter was being led astray by the circumcision party. Yes, he got grace, but he lost sight of it. He was being a hypocrite. And so, beloved, we do well to heed these words this morning. Because just like Peter, we can be drawn away. We should not be so arrogant to think that we might also not be drawn away by false teachers. If not just the false teacher of our own hearts, the false teacher of our conscience that would be informed by the law only, or a combination of the law and the gospel. Because when we go down that path, we lose assurance individually, and then the church is in danger of becoming something other than the bride of Christ. And so let's consider Paul's words before us by beginning with Paul's affirmation in the first part of verse 1